Isso, só- And what's that? One and welcome. It would be great if we can all have a seat. Amazing to see you. A warm welcome to the DUT 2026 conference in Brussels. I would say quite in a special venue. I'm very thankful we got some sunshine this morning, and I'm very excited that I will be able to guide you through this day. My name is Rebecca, and I'm a professional host and moderator. I do that in German, in English, sometimes also in French. So I'm very happy to be here in Brussels. And I've had the pleasure to work within the DUT program last year. If some of you were in Milano, in Italy, we had the PET conference together. I also was able to do some Agora dialogues. And yesterday we had the Urban Doers kickoff workshop. Are the Urban Doers in the house? Yes. Oh, we already had a great session yesterday. And yeah, with that, I'm very happy we're starting today off. I think that's quite a milestone. The DUT program has really spent years building this community, building different initiatives. And now we want to move to the proof. So it's from promise to prove what we want to look at today. We really want to showcase flagship activities. We'll hear super interesting panels. We'll have breakout sessions this afternoon. So we also want to hear from you. We want to really make it engaging. So it's not only about the speakers sharing their insights, it's also about your experiences and what you bring to the table. I'm also very excited that we have 34 nationalities present. That's really international. We had 250 registration on site, I think around 350 online. So also for those of you who are joining online, a super warm welcome. And I've already introduced myself, and I'd also love to hear from you. I'm German. We like efficiency, and then I thought, well, to do an introduction round with 250 people, that's a little difficult. But then I got an idea. And now I would love to do the most efficient welcome and introduction round possible. Are you in for that? Yes. All right. I will count from 3 down. And then you will shout your name as loud as possible so we all introduce ourselves, okay? I think the first name, that's enough, yeah, because we want to be quite personal here. So I will count down and then we all, have been introduced, okay? 3, 2, 1. Great. I'm very happy we now all have a better understanding of who is in the house today. And with that, of course, also want to know a little bit more of where you're from. So when you are a city or a municipality, can you wave your hands? Where are the cities, municipalities? All right, interesting. Who is here from research and academia? Okay, quite some people. From a project innovation program, yes. Civil society or NGO, also some. The private sector. All right, quite a nice mix. And we will have some more time to get to know each other better. And that you also know how to stay connected during the day. Here is the Wi-Fi. You can take a picture if you want to make sure you can also stay connected. You can use the time right now. And you can also scan the QR code of the event program that you are aware of all the exact timings. I'll be the one guiding you through the day, but sometimes it doesn't hurt to have a little cheat sheet on site. So you can scan the QR code. It's also the same that you find online on our website. We also want to create some buzz. So if you like LinkedIn or also Instagram, whichever platform you prefer, make sure you tag the DUT program and that you use the hashtag DUT Conference 2026. That would be amazing that we can also see how each one of you reports from this session. And now I would love to open the stage for some more welcoming words. And I'm very excited to have one Margit Noll with us. She is the head of Department European and International Program at the Austrian Research Promotion Agency. She manages also the Transnational Research and Innovation Initiatives, GPA Urban Europe. And she has really played a key role in shaping this initiative already since 2009. And she has a PhD in physics and an MBA. She's quite a bridge builder. And so happy to have you here, Marion. I'll hand the mic to you. And happy for your welcoming words.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Thank you. Thanks for a nice introduction, covering it all so shortly. Happy to be here and a very warm welcome. Good morning to all of you. I'm happy to see a full room, a full house, as you called it. We do have a couple more people online, as far as I know. So we tried to engage the community and get everyone on board who could travel, who took the effort to come here to Brussels, and who could not, but still wanted to follow our program. As said, we are turning from promise to proof, and it's really a milestone for us. We have been investing a lot over the last years to build the program. It was based already on some previous activities and programs, but still it was growing a lot. And now it's a moment to start harvesting, right? Looking into the last couple of years, we have been growing in different ways and different ends. We have been growing in terms of partners and funding organizations. We have been able to bring on board and have been welcoming funding agents from Croatia, from Japan, from Korea, from Tunisia, and some more countries. They are joining in, they are providing their funds to team up, and very thankful for all these engagements and the trust that there is in the network to make all that happen. We have also been growing in terms of investments and funded projects. By now, we have 136 funded projects in our first 3 calls, and we are super excited to get the next cohort of projects joining soon. They will be selected in a few weeks, and then we have even more projects. We hope that we get another 40 or plus projects to joining the family and contributing to all the priorities and all the ambitions that there are. We have been also growing in terms of the community. In our project, we have more than 260 cities engaging, and municipalities, local authorities. I think this is amazing that you are mobilizing the forces, that we can team up, that there is a high interest among the cities to join these activities. And we have among those more than 50 cities from the cities mission itself. So there's a very strong link to what is happening otherwise on a European level. We have nearly 290 organizations from business. Most of them are small and medium-sized enterprises. So we have been able over the time to mobilize also more the company perspective, teaming up with research and the cities to drive innovation. And as you already mentioned, we are particularly proud and happy to have our newly selected 12 local initiatives joining the Urban Doers community. And this is another way of encouraging and supporting the efforts that are taking place in our cities to turn them around to become more sustainable, more livable, and resilient. So we're happy to have you on board to engage, to bring you perhaps a bit closer to the research program and see what we can do and learn together. So all this mix of actors that we have that are cooperating in the calls, in the projects and beyond are really important for us. They're at the heart of our ambition, how we define our program to be relevant and to bring research to action. I think this is really essential. And by that, the projects are contributing to the European Cities Mission. They are contributing to the Global Cities Mission of Mission Innovation. So we are connecting a lot of dots in our cooperations. And this approach seems particularly fitting in times where we are calling for more impact if you have been following the discussions and negotiations on European level, when we're talking about the next framework program, about the next sort of instruments to be laid out, the European Competitiveness Fund. If we look into that, we truly believe that cities are essential territorial spaces and frameworks that are attracting talents, that are hosting businesses and scaling them, that are the places to unlock city-driven lead markets, and that they are creating a resilient environment for all of that to happen. So also when we look at the ambition on European level, new priorities coming up, we believe the urban dimension and cities will be important places to look into and to make sure that this transformation can continue. So in that sense, we will keep our efforts on and up. We will keep working on creating new innovations, supporting you as a community, cooperating and really bridging from research to implementation. And in that sense, we are very much looking forward to hearing the first results for you to engage and network, to see what has happened on different ends in the projects and beyond, what the next plans are, and how we can connect and harvest that towards the upcoming priorities and developments that we see. In that sense, many thanks to all of you for joining, for engaging. Particular thanks to our partners in the European Commission. It's an excellent cooperation that we can build upon and that we hope that we can carry on also in the future beyond the DUT context. So I wish you an inspiring conference, lively conversations, and a lot of food for thought that you can build upon in your next actions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, and with this, we also want to hear from the European Commission. We have Philippe Froissart with us. You actually have something in common, both a PhD in physics. You have one in nuclear physics, Philippe. In 2000, he joined the DG RTD and held several positions dealing with mobility, with international cooperation and research infrastructures. And since November 2023, he is leading the Strategy, Policy Coordination and Urban's Transition Unit, and was appointed 2024 Deputy Director of the Clean Planet Directorate. Welcome, Philippe Froissart.
Thank you very much, which shows that nuclear physics can lead to anything. Well, first of all, good morning to everyone. Dear colleagues, dear members of the European Parliament, I'm very pleased to see you today here in this arena. Dear colleagues, I only have very good and positive things to say this morning, actually. My colleagues have prepared for me a 20-minute intervention, so I will be brief. No, I wanted to start really by congratulating the DUT partnership for what they have achieved. And Margit, to a large extent, have summarized it very well with the numbers that she gave to you this morning. Within the Driving Urban Transition Partnership, we have more than 70 partners involved in the project, 70 what we used to call program owners and program managers in the old days. And that's not a small achievement. And we are covering more than 30 countries. And that, again, is a bit of an achievement. So I think it's important to stress the level of ambition that the Driving Urban Transition has had and what it has achieved so far, as well in terms of budget, because at the end of the day, that's what matters, budget that we can spend on research innovation actions. And the budget for the Driving Urban Transition Partnership is of 435 million, of which a third comes from the European Commission through Horizon Europe. So these numbers give you an idea of the achievement of the partnership, but it's also about content, about the topics, the transition pathways that have been identified, where member states have aligned their programs to carry out their research innovation actions. It's about positive energy districts. It's about 15-minute city challenge. It's about circular economy. All those issues are actually relevant, not only for the member states, but for the Union. And in that sense, the partnership, the Driving Urban Partnership, is contributing to the objective of the Union in this urban transition. So you mentioned, Margit, the number of projects, 136. Just to give you a comparison, within the city's mission, we have also our portfolio of projects, and we have about 40 projects. So That number is very impressive, 136. And I believe you will basically double that by the end of DUT. So we will be talking about around 300 projects on research and innovation actions in the topics that I mentioned, which is really impressive. What you have shown as well is the capacity to adapt to new environment and new challenges. And this is something that is critical for such a partnership, to show this capacity to adapt and for flexibility. But at the end of the day, the partnership, the DUT partnership, is not only about research innovation action, it's also about capacity to replicate the solutions that have been identified in the projects, because even if we are talking about 260 cities, it's still a minute fraction of cities that we have in Europe. So we have to demonstrate through our activities that we can replicate what we are doing in a pilot action in a given city to a broader group of cities. And it's about building a community of research innovation actors, a community of city practitioners, policymakers, and citizens. This is something which is very important for the success of this partnership. The second point I would like to raise is the contribution of the DUT partnership to the missions. And I should put the missions with an S, because behind every mission, there is always a second one lurking in the shadow. And in our case, it's the Urban Transition Mission. I don't know if Giorgia Rombelli is in the room, maybe not, but she will not take offense if I say that this is the second mission. It's very important, but for us, the first mission is the European Cities Mission, with its 112 cities participating, with the ambition of becoming climate neutral by 2030. And when we were asked to review the partnership 7 years ago, when we launched Horizon Europe, the question that was put to us is, does it make sense to have a partnership like DUT together with the European Cities Mission? And for me, it was a no-brainer, in a sense that what DUT was doing was in complete complementarity with what the mission was doing. And that has been exemplified in the activities that the Driving Urban Transition Partnership has supported until now. So for instance, if you look at the cities that are participating in the projects of DUT, more than 50 cities are coming from the Cities Mission. So some of you might argue it's not enough or it's too much, but I think it's actually the right number. It's the right number because it shows that whatever is done in driving urban transition echoes the concern and the needs of the cities that are participating of the mission, which have an objective of 2030 for climate neutrality. But it shows also that what you do in driving urban transition goes well beyond the cities mission in reaching out to cities that would not normally be able to participate in the cities mission. So therefore, a complete complementarity between what is done between the partnership and the mission. And for the second mission, also very important, the Urban Transition Mission of Mission Innovation, which can be regarded as the international outreach of what we do in Europe when it comes to urban transition. And DUT has been a key partner in the Urban Transition Mission. It's one of the co-lead of the Urban Transition Mission of Mission Innovation. And through the tools and the instruments that it offers, it gives the possibility for cities outside Europe to benefit from the work that is done in Europe and share peer-to-peer exchanges and experience between what is being done in cities outside Europe and cities in Europe. Now, the last point I would like to make, and as you can see, I'm not taking the 20 minutes that I was going to take in the first place. It's about partnership. So it's a big word. Everyone's talking about partnership at the moment. Stakeholders are talking about partnerships. Commission is talking about partnerships. Member states are talking about partnerships. Businesses are talking about partnerships. And everyone wants basically its partnerships to be renewed for the next MFF. Okay. I think this is very early days, but at the end of the day, we have to remember first and foremost why we want a partnership. What is it that we want to do within a partnership that needs to be done through this instrument? So a partnership for the sake of a partnership doesn't mean anything. What we need to show is the unique selling point, if you want to use this expression, or the genuine added value of what we want to do in urban transition in Europe that needs to be done through a partnership approach by bringing together member states, by bringing together practitioners in developing a coherent strategy for urban transition within the horizon of 2050. If we can demonstrate that, then I believe strongly that there is room for an innovative-driven urban transition partnership in the next MFF. But don't quote me on that, of course. I think you need to be convinced yourself as well. And you need to convey that convincing elements to the people that matters, namely the member states, the ministries, the parliament, and you need to make sure that that message goes across so that there is a bright future for DUT in the next MFF. And I think that's all I wanted to say from my side. Thank you very much for your attention, and I will be with you the whole day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. For also highlighting the importance of DUT within the broader frameworks. And actually, we also wanted to use synergies. Probably you also know that there is the new European Bauhaus Festival happening this week. That was also quite intentional to really think about how we can place the DUT conference here in Brussels. And now we want to head in our first very honest conversation, the soft power of cities in the current crisis. And I'm very happy for our moderator. She has lived and worked in more than 30 countries. She is Sweden's national contact point and expert for the new European Bauhaus Facility Research and Innovation component. And she really builds the bridges between research and policymaking. And I think her key strengths are really analyzing key societal challenges and coordinating and leading multi-stakeholder processes. So I think she is the woman for our panels. Please give a warm round of applause to Sandra.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. I just feel that that was all too much attention to me. I'm not the one to be speaking about here. But hi, so nice to be here. Sandra Tuesson from Stockholm, Sweden. And hi, everyone at home as well. Nice that you are following us. We're going to move on to a panel session with 2 keynotes. The soft power of cities in the current crisis. In a time of overlapping global crisis, cities are becoming powerful actors, shaping narratives, values, and democratic life. This session will explore how culture, research, creative industries, and design intersect with sustainable urban development. Moving beyond DUT's themes of circularity, mobility, and energy, the panel will address housing, public space, and the role of citizens in strengthening democracy as well. I'm just going to drink so you don't hear my smacking. I have the great honor to welcome the first keynote from Marcos Rostampere. Please, Marcos. You're a Spanish politician, professor, and architect. You're a current member of the European Parliament, the REGI Committee, and chair of the European Urban Forum. A warm applause for Marcos, please. So I will leave the floor for you, and then we come up later as well.
Thank you, Sandra. Thank you very much. Good morning to everyone. Special thanks to the DUT partnership for the invitation and for celebrating this event today that I think is very important. Thank you, Philip, for your presence also with the European Commission and for your words. We are discussing cities in a moment when they are no longer simply the space where policies are implemented. They are becoming active, democratic, cultural, and geopolitical actors, shaping not only how Europe looks, but also how it thinks, how it lives, and how it legitimates itself. In a context of overlapping crises, climate disruption, housing shortages, territorial inequality, and democratic fragmentation, the central question is no longer only how we build cities, but what kind of society our cities are actively producing. For me, this is the essential part of the debate. And in this debate, I would like to bring together 3 dimensions that are often discussed separately, but are increasing inseparable: urban policy, cohesion policy through the ERDF, and I will refer to that because I am currently the co-rapporteur on the ERDF regulation, and the new European Bauhaus, which we are celebrating the festival today and tomorrow and until the weekend. When we speak about cities, we are not speaking only about buildings, streets, infrastructure, or urban planning. We are, for me, essentially speaking about how people live. For me, this is the most part and the essential part. We are speaking about whether a young person can afford to stay in their city, whether a family can remain living in its neighborhood, whether public space brings people together or pushes them apart, whether the green transition improves daily life or becomes something distant, imposed, and difficult to understand. We always say that talking about cities is also talking about democracy, because democracy is not only something that happens in institutions like the European Parliament or in elections. Democracy also happens in streets, in squares, in public spaces such as schools or bus stops. This is why I believe that cities are democratic projects in physical form. And this idea is especially important today because we are living through several crises at the same time. I have mentioned the housing, climate, territorial inequalities, and also a crisis of trust in democratic institutions. And the question is, what kind of society are our cities producing? Are they producing inclusion or segregation? Are they helping transition or a greener way of life? Are they helping with the loneliness crisis? Are they producing welfare or, on the other hand, frustration? Are they producing places where people feel they belong, or are people feeling they are being expelled? This is the big political question behind urban policy today. And here is where I always talk about cohesion policy, because it has been mentioned also the new European Competitiveness Fund will help cities a lot to improve their competitiveness, their resilience, and also the Horizon Europe. But I think that one of the fundamental funding schemes and tools of the European Union is the ERDF, the European Regional Development Fund, because for many years the ERDF has helped cities and regions to modernize infrastructure, to regenerate urban areas, to improve energy efficiency, and to develop sustainable mobility. And these four aspects are key. And all of this is essential, and we have to understand what are we discussing now for the next period on the MFF. Now in the European Parliament are discussing two things about how much money is going to be addressed for urban areas and for cities, and how are we going to manage this money. The discussion of the management is a very high discussion now because the proposal from the European Commission, sorry Philippe, but I have to say that, was too centralized and not so much decentralized as we knew as of today with the ERDF scheme that we have in the current period. And we are trying to push back now this proposal in the European Parliament to maintain the multi-level governance and maintain the participation of the cities in the management, design, management, and implementation of the ERDF funding. And the second is about the money, because in this management, it was also proposed to merge everything, not everything, but common agriculture policy, ERDF, security, defense, tourism, fisheries, all together in a national scheme that in a national envelope to be given to the member states. We in the Parliament are pushing to earmark different funds. We voted 1 month ago to earmark 307 billion euros to ERDF, only to ERDF and Cohesion Fund. And now, inside the regulation of the ERDF and Cohesion Fund, I am ready to announce that in 2 weeks, the co-rapporteur and me, we will propose some novelties. We will propose 13% earmarking for urban policing within the ERDF. It has been agreed between the both rapporteurs. Let's see what happened then with the process of amendments. But it is important it is not a random figure. It reflects a political reality. Housing, climate adaptation, mobility, inclusion. It is one of the biggest challenges are coming in the cities. Second, we are defending also, and we will address a 10% earmarking for housing, specifically for housing, inside the ERDF regulation. And this is a central question of the challenges that we have in Europe. And third, we are also ready to propose a 10% extra of earmarking for connectivity and the development of rural and less connected areas. And this is very important because when we speak about urban areas, sometimes we are talking about small urban areas belonging to a big rural area. And we have to be sure that we are not leaving anyone behind. And to be very concrete and very quick and to summarize, we are in the days in which we are celebrating the new European Bauhaus Festival, an initiative that comes from 6 years. And I think we have to defend also, and we are going to incorporate in the ERDF regulation, the new European Bauhaus values. Because when we are talking about a new European Bauhaus, what we mean is we have to change our mindset and not thinking only about energy efficiency of cities, buildings, neighborhoods. When we talk about the urban transition, and this is a good place to talk about that, we have to incorporate the other two values of the new European Bauhaus, not only sustainability, but also beauty and also inclusion, because we cannot leave anyone behind, and because we want that this transition create better spaces to live and to improve the life of the people that live in the city. I don't want to take a lot of time because we are going to hold a conversation, and maybe the question will arise, and we will be able to respond. But let me say one last thing: cities cannot work alone, and this is very important in an event like today, because we are celebrating an event inside a partnership, and a partnership demonstrates that creating networks of exchanging good practices, of exchanging knowledge, of exchanging new policies are not only good for the city that tries to be incorporated into the network, but for the whole network, and for the cities or urban areas that are outside the network that can look at the results, the achievement of the network, and incorporate into their cities. So congrats for being active in this partnership and for being working on this partnership during years. Thank you very much.
So much. Yes, please be seated. Thank you. I love that the Parliament is here. Thank you. It's an honor, and we are so happy that the bridge is also, since I have followed our next guest for some years and his work, I know that this will actually fit quite well. So Martin Gelin, you're a journalist, award-winning author of 7 books on American politics, foreign affairs, and culture. He has written for The Guardian, The Washington Post, Bloomberg, The New York Times, New York Magazine, Foreign Policy, Slate, och Dagens Nyheter in Sweden, where we come from. So a warm applaud for you, Martin Gelin. The floor is yours. Let's see if you have a microphone that works. Let's see if it works. And
this works?
Yeah, great. And the clicker for the pictures, I hope as well.
Yeah, thank you for that introduction, and thank you for inviting me to this beautiful gathering. I have written a book about soft power, and I'm here to talk about the soft power of cities, and it was great to listen to Marcos. I think there's a lot of overlap in our interests. I'm glad that you were concrete and specific so that I can be vague and abstract in my presentation. So I lived, as Sandra suggested, in the US for 23 years, and moved back to Europe 2 years ago. it was, I live in Paris, a little picture of my hometown. And I moved before the election and had to explain to a lot of people why I moved after the election. No one has really had to explain why they're moving to Europe. More than 400,000 Americans have moved to Europe for the first time in history. We're seeing more people move from America to Europe than vice versa. And I like to talk a little bit about what makes Europe attractive and the challenges that comes with that attraction. A lot of conservatives in America are upset that liberals in America see Europe as attractive, so they're trying very hard to convince them that Europe is actually a terrible place. The Wall Street Journal recently published this opinion piece that I'm sure some of you have seen. What will happen when Europeans find out how poor they are? They think that Europeans are secretly living in squalor, and one day they will find out. This piece got a lot of pushback. Paul Krugman, an American economist at Princeton, pointed out, that life expectancy is a lot higher in Europe than in the US. We can see here that France has about 5 years more life expectancy than the US, and that's true for most European countries. In the Nordic countries, it's even 7 years more. And as Krugman said, an important factor for good quality of life is that you're not dead. But why are Europeans living longer? Why is life very attractive? Obviously, everyone here knows, the robust welfare state, universal healthcare, healthier lifestyle, healthier diets. But I would also like to say that I think urban culture in Europe is an important factor. This kind of community building spaces are available in most European cities, and they contribute not just to a healthier, walkable lifestyle, but they also build community and meaning, and gives people reasons to live and to find meaning in their lives. And this has, been not a coincidence. It's a result of active policy choices, and this is one of the kind of hardest to define but most important factors, I think, in what makes European cities, not just big cities, but small towns also, very attractive. But we're also, as Marcus said, seeing a lot of challenges to that model right now. I was just in Venice, and woke up early, a beautiful Saturday morning, walking around Venice in a nice, quiet residential area with my son, and there was no sounds except for some seagulls and the water, and then I heard a number of men grunting loudly, and I thought there was a fight or something going on, but turned out to be a boat where they were unloading huge boxes of Aperol. So of course the city was getting ready for a weekend of lots of Aperol spritz drinking from all the tourists coming in. And then we walked around the corner, and I saw this scene of 5 firefighters showing up for an American girl who had dropped her iPhone into the canal. So they were all, you can see that there's 5 of them standing there. They were all trying to fish up this iPhone. And this is a recurring problem now in Venice. There's even a guy called Luca who advertises around town on lampposts. He charges $150 and he shows up immediately with a scuba diving set to find your iPhone. And this could be the future of the European city. We could provide these great services for rich tourists coming in from America or China. We could create a vast service industry that fishes up iPhones immediately, more efficiently than any other scuba diver. But I think most of us would like to see a different future for Europe than this. And I think it's important to realize, that we're seeing this huge asset, the fact that tourists. You know, more than 100 million people came to France last year. I think almost 100 million came to Spain also. A lot more people than live in these countries come to visit them every year. We're risking turning this huge asset into a burden. Tourism is creating challenges for sustainability. It's creating resentment among locals, as we're seeing in Venice when they see their public assets being used to help American tourists rather than putting out fires among residents. It's a challenge for the city, and we need to address those challenges. We have seen a kind of decline in investment in art, in cultural institutions, in public investments, in public spaces, in everything that makes cities attractive and everything that makes these places popular for visitors and for residents alike. And when I was writing my book, I traveled around the world and I saw, you know, the biggest exception to that is happening in dictatorships and authoritarian regimes right now, where they're investing massively in urban culture, in public spaces, in art institutions, in museums. Qatar's waterfront has been completely transformed with all these spectacular new museums. We're seeing the same in most of the Gulf states. Saudi Arabia is famously building this futuristic city called Neom, where they hope to house 10 million people, and they're planning to build 300 art museums. So it's one of the biggest investments in cultural infrastructure since the Marshall Plan. And China famously also spending massively on soft power, on building cultural institutions. This is the new public library in Beijing that was just inaugurated, and it was created by Snøhetta, Norwegian architects. So they're hiring some of the greatest talents from the West to create more soft power in their own cities and more cultural institutions in their own cities. And in too many countries in Europe and North America, we're seeing the opposite happening. It's not just, this is famously Elon Musk's launch of Department of Government Efficiency. But we're seeing similar things happening, particularly with nationalist and authoritarian governments in Europe, where they also want to slash all these things, all the things that have built soft power for Europe and for the European city. When I wrote my book, the exceptions in democracies tend to be happening in the young democracies in East Asia and Eastern Europe. In Seoul, they have in South Korea, they've invested massively in public space, in sustainability, in culture, in art, in third spaces. In Taipei, in Taiwan, similar investments going on. This is a night market, one of the great sort of drivers of tourism to Taipei. Attracts about 2 million people every year and costs the city very little in public investments, but it's a massive driver of attraction for Taiwan and helps them also like sustain their reputation around the world. In Tallinn, I recently talked to the head of the port of Tallinn, who also expressed a kind of sophisticated understanding of soft power in these times of crisis and difficulty. He surprised me by saying that he spends most of his time now trying to convince the government to build an opera house in the port. And this is a rendering of what that opera house could be. And the model is, of course, Sydney and other cities where spectacular cultural institutions have transformed the image of the city and not just help bring in tourists and revenue, but also transform the entire reputation of the place and help with something that scholars of diplomacy and international relations call reputational security, which I think is a useful phrase, kind of updating of soft power, where countries that are struggling with belligerent neighbors like Russia can use soft power as an asset to strengthen their national security. So for Tallinn, for Estonia, this is a very deliberate strategy where culture and art and soft power becomes part of a strategy for national survival, just as it has been for Ukraine, just as it has been for a lot of the East Asian countries that are struggling with their belligerent authoritarian neighbors. I'm not going to talk too long, but yeah, I think this is an urgent issue for Europe. I think it's the kind of key to just sustain our identity and our attraction, and I'd like to sort of talk to Marcus a little bit about particularly how to make sure that the fruits of this attraction, of the soft power of the European city, doesn't just fall into Paris and Venice and Amsterdam and the most popular tourist destinations. That we don't create kind of winners and losers among cities, but that we are able to share this rewards more equally. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, my head is exploding with questions, but I think we have some 10 minutes or so for a conversation. I just want to ask Marcus, your reflections on listening to Martin firstly.
Okay, thank you, Martin. Thank you for your presentation and for your insights. This brings me some things to the mind. Sometimes I have to combine my 2 or 3 hats in which I am on the stage. No, my hat of as European member of the European Parliament, but also my hat of as urban planning professor, or my hat as an architect. But what I think is that we have too many things over the cities now, that we had to do things. We had to be very active, and we had to take into account that cities cannot be longer just like an administrative issue in which we build, we create buildings, new places, and we go on every day without thinking of how do we want our citizens in our city to live their lives. This is the most important thing. For example, some last images about big buildings that can create major transformation. Okay, I think that nowadays we are most on small neighbor transformation, small daily based and place-based approach inside the neighborhood that drive real changes to our daily life. For example, I am thinking about what happened more than 20 years ago in Bilbao with the Guggenheim, that transformed of the life of the citizen. Okay, it transformed the image of a city. It transformed the global perception of what kind of city do I want. It transformed the tourists towards Bilbao. But what it's really transforming Bilbao, and I have been recently there, is the real transformation of small neighborhoods in which we have implemented new public transportation. We have recovered a lot of space, gained space that was from cars to real citizens to walk, to have to spend the evening or the morning, to put some benches and to sit there and to stay with the trees, with the nature. We have implemented the nature inside the neighborhoods, and these are the real changes that are improving the life of citizens, and these are the real changes that are making citizens more active in our democratic values, which is at the end of the day what we want. Because if not, we will have cities with big projects, wonderful projects, a lot of tourists, but citizens feeling expelled
Yeah.
of the cities
Yeah.
because of the tourism, and we have to be careful of that.
Thank you for pointing that out so clearly. Do you want to comment on that, Martin?
Yeah, no, I would love to. I mean,
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I don't think it's necessarily either or, but I think it's important to not just think that. And I think that's a mistake that a lot of the authoritarian countries are doing. They're just doing the Bilbao, the first leg of that, where they build, you know, the higher front gear and they build something spectacular, and then they think everything will take care of itself, and they get some good PR for it, but it doesn't transform society. It doesn't transform people's way of lives, and doesn't create community and meaning. I think one thing that I know that you work a lot on also, and that sort of ties into that, is the way that, you know, smaller and medium-sized cities can benefit from these ideas, so that it's not just a huge, famous, rich metropolises that benefit. And I just, like, you know, there's just one specific example that I use in my book that I think is very interesting, from France, a French sociologist called Jérôme Fourquet, that I recommend looking up for people who are interested in these issues. He wrote a book called The French Archipelago, where he investigated kind of how isolated socially and culturally and politically France is becoming. It's becoming a country of islands. And he found that the way to transcend that, an interesting sort of data point was that in the last election between Le Pen and Macron, the small towns with good train connections voted less for Le Pen. And I think this is an interesting pattern where, you know, it's not that these places happen to be wealthy, you know, parts of France. It's not just Paris and Lyon that has great trains. It's often like 40, 50 or so small towns where you see this pattern. And it's about, you know, public investment. It's about a sense of connection, a sense of community, a sense that you're linked to the rest of the country and to the rest of society and to the rest of the wider world. And we see this pattern with you know, pubs in the UK, small towns where the pubs closed, where there's no longer a gathering place. They were more likely to vote for Brexit. And in France, the towns where the tabac, the local cafe, meeting place closes, they're more likely to vote for authoritarian nationalism, Eurosceptics. So I think, you know, the finding ways to connect small towns, medium-sized towns, big towns, doesn't have to be trains. It can be, you know, networks of political alliances, informal alliances, cultural collaborations, civil society. I think that's absolutely crucial to sustaining Europe's urban culture and the ability for not just the big winners in urban policy to benefit from these ideas.
Thank you. I was thinking about, you told us about 400,000 people leaving the States to US, from US to Europe. In a way, I feel that we are living in a time of a window of opportunity. What will happen if we don't take care of our citizens in the continent, if they feel neglected, like you both point out? The connection with housing and democracy and public institutions, as you both say, what would you point out as the main thing for us not to forget when dealing with this? You talked about, Martin, pubs and city administrations, but on a different point of view from both of you, what can't we forget when talking about the connection, housing, democracy, and citizens and sustainability from a city's perspective?
Okay, we are very much used to talk about the well-being, about the state of the welfare state, but no one can have a well-being if you don't have a place to be. This is essential, and this is affecting to the quality of our democracy. If people feel that they cannot afford a place to be, a place to develop their own life project, they will disconnect from the democracy because they will feel that the society is expelling them. And if we don't put a milestone on that, and if we don't put our spotlight on that and try to solve this, we will have a major democracy crisis in Europe. Not in Europe only, because the housing crisis is affecting United
globally.
States, Canada, Japan, everywhere globally, because this is a question about investment and money around the world that has decided to invest in buildings better than in enterprises or other things, okay? And how can we solve that? I think that we had to explain citizens that we can do things, we can control the market a little bit, that it is a shared responsibility between all the administrations, but also the private sector. We had to engage also with responsible private sector, not with the big funds and so on, but with the private sector that this is responsible, promoters, builders that want to contribute to the solution of the problem.
And perhaps invite them in the beginning as well to talk about the questions, also the private sector, not only adding on the private sector in the...
We cannot solve everything only from the public sector. We can promote legislation, we can promote regulation, we can limit in certain ways some speculation, we can promote a new public building stock that we need, because in certain countries it has been lowered down and it is ridiculous. But we need also the private sector. We need a coalition. We need in certain way, a democratic coalition, which means citizens, private sector, institutions working together to solve this problem. This is the only way to arrive to a problem. And let me say one last thing. In this coalition, cities, they have a lot to say, because they are responsible for the urban planning. They are responsible for the licenses to build, to create new buildings. They are responsible for creating the conditions, local conditions, to create more buildings and sustainable buildings and affordable buildings. And this is important, that cities are working together and working in a sense that we need now.
That's great.
Yeah, I mean, I can just add like a sort of anecdote to amplify kind of what you were saying. I was in Bristol last year, met Marvin Rees, who was the former mayor there. I'm sure many here are engaged with. He's sadly not part of the EU, but he's prominent in the C40 coalition and very important voice in urban policy. And we talked about the riots in Bristol, the far right riots the summer before, and Marvin Rees was the first black mayor of a major UK city, but he grew up in a white working class neighborhood with his white mom, and he knew a lot of the people who were rioting and you know, threatening refugees and wanted to burn down hotels that were housing refugees and creating havoc around the city. He walked around and he recognized his old friends from childhood, and he talked to them, and he said his understanding of it was very illuminating to me, because he said that a lot of them expressed they weren't really upset at immigration or the refugees. They were upset at exactly what Marcus is saying, being excluded from the city. They've been priced out of Bristol, and they basically saw the riots were basically an expression of a kind of civil war between working class white residents and the gentrified neighborhoods in central Bristol. And I think that pattern is happening all over Europe, where bad housing policy leads to extreme reactions, anti-democratic reactions, a loss of trust in the entire political system, and it takes any shape it can. You know, they choose immigrants as scapegoats because it's a convenient scapegoat. It always has been in European history, but it's really about sense of belonging in society and feeling included and not feeling rejected by the institutions of European society. So I think that's that dynamic, I think, is important to understand, and it reminds us that housing policy is a fundamental democratic issue. It's not about charity. It's about really finding inclusive housing policy. It's really about maintaining democracy.
So without giving you, the audience, too much heavy on your shoulders, I think we have some real policy issues to deal with us not getting too far out in the context as you talk about. It's about preparing welfare, housing, neighborhoods, vivid neighborhoods, city administration that are really investing in their citizens. So thank you for your really thoughtful thoughts and ideas, and thank you for coming. A big applause, Marcos and Martin.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Please come here.
And with this, we want to continue right away and also have a look on the DUT roadmap 2.0. I wanted to say 0.2, but 2.0, because there's been quite some work on it. So that's the right way to phrase it. I'm very happy to welcome on stage Ursula Küttel. She is the CEO of DUT, works a lot on partnerships, a word that we've heard coming up many times, as well as Johannes Riegler. He's an urbanist from Vienna, also part of the DUT management board. And yeah, if you read his LinkedIn bio carefully, he also says he's very happy about tips on coffee in cities. So maybe you have a good coffee tip also for Brussels. But with that having said, the stage is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Rebecca. Welcome, everybody. And hi, Oshi.
Hello,
Oshi, so we were tasked to talk about the roadmap, DUT roadmap 2.0, so the updated roadmap. And we thought instead of actually presenting it, it would be nice to have a conversation about that, because it might tell a little bit more of the context and the background of this strategic document for DUT, where it comes from and where it might lead us. So how's it going for you today?
Very good. I'm very happy to be here. Very exciting to see so many familiar faces and also some new. It's always exciting when every 2 years we get together with the broader stakeholder community and we manage to experience these very positive vibes that I see in the room.
Yeah, how does it feel for you? We are now, I mean, DUT is a 7-year program, and I just remember vividly a couple of years ago in 2022, we kicked off DUT. Now it seems like we are halfway through. We are sailing somehow full speed midstream of this journey of DUT. How does it feel for you?
It's very exciting. It's also very interesting because I was there when we boarded this boat, if we can go on with this metaphor. Back then I was representing Hungary in the partnership, and then 3 years ago, I moved to Vienna and I became part of the DUT management team. So my responsibilities and my involvement in the partnership also changed. But it's very inspiring to see all the changes and all the achievements that we have achieved in the past years.
Yeah, there were many, right? So
Yes.
we had, it was already mentioned how many projects we have, how many countries, how much investment is taking place here. And from all these activities, joint calls, the Agora dialogues, the dialogues with our stakeholders, the urban doers communities. What else do we have? The city panel, the conversation with the European Commission, with our countries. What would you say? What have we learned over the last years?
How much time do we have?
Yeah, a couple of minutes.
No, we will try to keep it as focused as possible. And for that, we brought a couple of slides. Just to summarize, I think obviously our core business, as you all know, and actually that was already presented in the opening speeches, is to fund research and innovation projects. And for that, we have a very successful track record, if you like, so far, because we managed to bring together more than 1,500 partners from different countries. Obviously, the key focus is engaging with the cities. So we have like more than 260 cities already participating. That's also a figure you already heard. But what is really interesting and how we can actually learn from that is that funding projects alone is not enough. I mean, you could hear all the challenges that we are facing. So it's really important that we manage to build up a portfolio of measures. And that's something that we wanted to visualize in this picture, which support the impact, how to achieve impact and how to eventually achieve our vision that we set in the beginning of the partnership and which we revised through the roadmap. So it's very important to highlight that impact does not happen if we are thinking in silos, and we need to make sure that the researchers, knowledge institutions, the cities, businesses, including SMEs, and policymakers are involved in the entire process. And this is one key learning. Then the second point is also that in our exchanges with cities and through our activities visualized, and I think that is also obvious for most of the people in the room, that we are not looking for isolated solutions. Like these challenges are so interconnected that we need to make sure that the approaches and the solutions that we develop are equally integrated. And that's why we managed to create a genuine community. Many of you are here today with us. And a shared learning space. And I find that very exciting because practically what we need to develop is these integrated approaches. You know, we have, or most of you I think know by now, that we have the 3 transition pathways: positive energy districts, 15-minute cities, and the circular urban economies. But they are interconnected. And it's really important that the solutions that we develop are evidence-based and embedded in the cities. Because that's the only way how we can test them and make sure to scale them in the future. And I think that also connects to other sources of funding, which was mentioned in the panel before. So just to summarize, I think the key takeaway from this visual is that the projects, the funded projects and the urban doers, the activities are the foundation of what we want to achieve, but we cannot leave out the value of the community we have. And we need to make sure that the individual innovations developed actually lead to the broad urban transformation that we need to address these challenges.
Once more, looking back to over the last year. So when we kicked off DUT, or when we launched it 4 years ago, the world was a different place in a way. So there has a lot has happened at a rapid pace. What we probably couldn't anticipate back then. So we have a war on European territory. There's some shifts in the geopolitical landscape. There's major shifts there as well. We have challenges with the economic development. And at the same time, it seems like our cities are more and more prone to feeling the effects of the climate crisis, of the biodiversity crisis, and so on. So if you stay with this metaphor of the ship, DUT as a ship, we are not exactly in calm waters at the moment. Do you feel that the topics, the urban topics and urban resilience and robustness is over the last years becoming less important, or is it, how do you feel about that?
I would say it's becoming more and more important. So obviously we are in very stormy waters, as you said. And we need to make sure that we try to stabilize our ship as much as possible so no one feels seasick. And to reiterate, we have heard that, and I think we all agree that cities are actually at the forefront of all these challenges. So practically, when you mentioned shift, I agree, but I also like to disagree because I don't think it's necessarily a shift from one challenge to the other. It's an accumulation of challenges, and that's what makes it so difficult to address it. Because practically cities, as I said, they are the places. They are the places where these challenges become tangible, and they need to try to address all these challenges simultaneously. So that's like the list of expectations actually growing instead of like shifting focus. I think then it would be a bit easier to address these challenges. So that's why what we realize and what I want to emphasize, and this is also reflected in the roadmap, what we try to do is to map what is the addition of the challenges to the already existing ones. So practically, obviously, the cities now need to focus on resilience in a very broad term. I think resilience can be interpreted and needs to be interpreted in many different levels. So obviously it's reacting to external shocks, but also addressing the internal challenges and tensions. And in that one, I think that the robustness of urban areas practically is very key for the future of Europe. So I would really emphasize that all these, the resilience as such is today not only focusing on climate adaptation, climate mitigation, the energy crisis, but also how to leave no one behind, how to ensure the social inclusion, cohesion, economic competitiveness, and we cannot afford siloed thinking. That's why what is very key, and it's a basic element of the DUT, is the system approach. So I think this is very important, that challenges may be evolving, but we have the tools and we have the methods to bring together the people, the change makers who need to join forces, and not only in given disciplines and sectors, but really across sectors, across disciplines, and across governance level. And that was also mentioned. Multi-level governance is key, because we are working together in DUT with cities. We are trying to develop solutions for the citizens, together with the citizens. But DUT is a community of funding agencies and ministries. So we really practically integrated this multi-level governance in our operations as well.
Yeah, very nice. And what you just said, I think that linked very well to the panel before, or to soft power and these issues we are facing at the moment, that we need to kind of build this robustness, and what that means to certain robustness, be it strategic autonomy, be it different things, that is to be defined probably also as well. But what does that mean, this new emerging landscape? What does that mean for let's say urban research and innovation programs on a European level? Do you have sleepless nights from that, or how do you navigate that?
I navigate through running. That's my secret. I can sleep very well, but I need to go for runs to digest a bit all these challenges. And I often get very good ideas, I have to say, when being outside and being in the green. But what I would rather share with you instead of my hobbies is how DUT is set up to reflect and to be able to adapt to these emerging challenges. So what is very important, and you mentioned 7 years in the beginning, it's true, but I will also add to that, because 7 years of launching calls every year, but actually the DUT program with all the project implementations and accompanying measures will be running for 12 years until the end of 2033, which means that we cannot afford ourselves the luxury of just like set a goal in the beginning and then blindly follow through, because we are part of a very rich ecosystem. It was mentioned we are working together very closely with the Cities Mission in Europe, with the Urban Transition Mission on a global level, with the new European Bauhaus Facility. And that's why it's very important that DUT is set up on this logic, which means that I already mentioned we are working together with the European Commission and with a very strong coalition of ministries and funding agencies. And we made a consensus on our overarching vision, but we need to make sure that we invest broadly into experimentation. But as soon as we have the results of the experimentation, that's where it becomes very inspiring, because we have a chance to learn and we need to listen. We need to engage in conversations with our stakeholders. From these learning processes and obviously the project results, and that's why we are very happy to have so many DUT projects and urban doers here, we need to make sure that we disseminate the results, the outcomes very broadly. And then we manage to reiterate, because once we are going through this reiterative process really to see like what have we learned and what we need to adapt. So this is an internal process reflecting obviously. So this gives us the flexibility to reflect the external challenges. And if I have 1 more minute, I would like highlight 4 points. And again, this very nicely echoes to many of the discussions or the 2 panels that we had here before our session, because these are the 4 principles. I mean, I think many of the people in the audience also know of DUT. So this links also to what I said. We need holistic approaches. So we need to make sure, because the cities, all of us, we are not experiencing these challenges separately. So obviously the solutions cannot address these issues and challenges separately either. So we need to develop holistic solutions. On the other hand, we need to think of systems. And this is, again, very important, how the different parts of the urban system are interrelated and how we can develop synergies on joint solutions, because that's key for scaling these solutions. The other point, what is also very important in our program, is that it's challenge-driven. So we don't just base our activities on the roadmap, for example, but we regularly have stakeholder engagement activities. We talk a lot to the cities themselves directly to depict which are the most urgent challenges, because we need to make sure that we, with our program, are addressing the most urgent ones. And then the solutions, and this was also mentioned by Marcos Rosenpera, the MVP, that needs to be place-based. So we are not developing solutions for the cities, but within the cities, together with the people who at the end of the day will use these developed solutions. So I believe DUT in that sense is very well placed and well positioned for the future, and we do have the right structures to address any upcoming challenges which might arise in the future.
Yeah, wonderful. And if you go back to the roadmap and to this stormy waters we are in, how does this roadmap, what's the compass function of the roadmap, let's say, for the rest of the running period of DUT, and what implications does it or might it have towards the next European Framework Program, FP10?
So this was also already something that was mentioned in the previous session. So we all know where we are right now in that phase. Interestingly, when we started updating the DUT roadmap and when we published the roadmap update last year, the concrete discussions and negotiations around FP10 just started. So obviously we had in mind, and if I can come back to the metaphor that we used, without changing the direction, so we knew what's the direction, but we practically rerouted a bit our ship in a way that we keep the stability, we keep the vision in mind, but with these slight course adjustments and with taking into consideration all the evolutions around us, we wanted to try to choose a pathway which enables us not to only reach the horizon of the sea that we are seeing, but eventually even explore further oceans and seas, if I can really get into this metaphor that we are using. And that means that obviously we kept in mind the rising challenges and how program like DUT, based on the legacy of GPI Urban Europe, can ensure to be firmly grounded and to be future aware, to be able to position itself also for the future and provide a potential solution and collaboration, a partnership which can stand in the FP10 program as well. But we will have a session in the afternoon to talk a bit more about that. So I would leave it like this.
Nice
Thank you.
cliffhanger. Oshia, thank you so much. And all the best for your captain duties on DUT. If you click one more time, if you're now curious about the roadmap, you can download it here under this QR code and on the DUT website. And with that, back to you, Rebecca.
Thank you very much. Big round of applause. You can just put the microphones back. Perfect. Thank you. I'll take the clicker. I really like this conversation that you had, and I really like the ship analogy. We also have some waters on stage, so I think that makes sense. You know, we're just really immersing into that ship theme. And I think when you are in a ship, and especially when you are in stormy waters, you want to understand who your crew members are. And we can imagine, I feel like this already has some ship vibes. You know, we have a little bit of the Ark Noah theme, I feel, here, where we are all in this ship. And I mentioned already this morning that we have a lot of different nationalities present. We have people from Western Europe, Benelux, we have South Europe, Nordics, Eastern Europe, the Balkans, and even global guests from Turkey, Ethiopia, South Africa, Japan, and Thailand. If you are from global abroad, can you wave? Do we have them in the room? Oh yeah, all right. So special welcome to you also for making it this far. And I think that helps us. Of course, we cannot now deep dive into all of the cultures and the different strength we bring to our boat and to our DUT partnership. But I would say with the Dutch, we have some that help us to go straight to the point. The Germans make sure we have an agenda. The Swedes making sure that everyone is heard, important too. The French to really discuss ideas. The Italians to discuss them passionately. The Belgians to build consensus, and the Spanish to keep on discussing even in the networking. So I think these are some of the samples that we have present here. And since we're here in Belgium, there's one word I think that Belgians like to use, and this is allez, yeah? And this can mean, come on. It can also be, let's go. It can also be seriously, or you've got this. And I would love us to do a collective allez. Also looking at the roadmap, there's quite some things ahead. So I will say allez, and then you repeat it and you stand up, okay? Can we do that? So I will be allez. Yes, very good. And you may stand, you may stay standing. Thank you very much. Because we also heard that it's stormy times, right? So we're facing challenges. We've heard it in the panels. We've heard that Europe does have strengths and the key of soft power, but also knowing, as Johannes said it, the world 5 years ago was a little different. And we are seeing those stormy waters. And I don't know how you have entered the conference, from which city or background you are coming from, and what you are dealing with. And I cannot offer you therapy for that, but I can offer you now a very quick sigh session that also has the psychological effect to just, reset a little bit. So what we will do is you imagine, one of the stressors. It can also be just your ride that took you here. That was, Brussels traffic is a thing. Or the challenges you're facing, and we inhale that. Think about it. And then we exhale it. Yeah, and we do it one more time and really full on with your body, okay? So we take the challenge and we exhale. And one more time, guys. Everything that's still up. And right. DUT is not known for its sighing. We heard about the roadmap. We want to, bring things forth actively. And that's why we also want to shake things up a little bit. And I think for that, we can also use a little sound and some music for this. Yes, and we're shaking a little bit to get active for everything that is ahead, guys. You start with your right arm. Your left arm also needs it, I think. And the right leg. Can we put the music up a little bit? Yes, right? Okay. And the left. All right. And now we like cyclists in our urban cities, right? We like them. All right. Very nice. And we see some huge skyscrapers in this city, and we really stretch. Yes. And we see the skyscrapers, some need some rebuilding. All right. And we also want to look at the details of the street. So we get really low. We see, all right. We also see some urban gardening, and we're like, yes, all right. And we see some nice trees, and we want to look at them on all sides. So we turn. Yes. And another round, because we want to have all the perspectives. Yes. All right. And we give it one last shake with shoulders. And rolling back. And rolling forth. And since we're in this ship together, and you now just proved you can sigh and you can also shake it, important qualities, I want you to give high fives to at least 5 people around you to be in this ship together. All right, thank you. Great job. I think that was a great, yes, thank you all. Amazing ship crew that we have in the house here. And I think that gave us some more capacity to listen to all of these very insightful sessions that we're having. And without further ado, I will hand over to my colleague Sandra again from Promise to Prove, a reality check from cities.
Thank you, Rebecca. Yeah, it's working. I need to share some private thing. When I spoke to my partner back home in Sweden, I said, we're doing 2 moderations. One is with other talents to make people happy. And he started laughing so much that I didn't get that job. So I'm so happy to be here as well. And Rebecca, thank you for giving us energy. And now I'm looking forward to taking up the next panel with us. From Promise to Prove, the conference is called today, A Reality Check from Cities. So the DUT partnership has set several formats into place, including City Panel and Urban Duos Grant. Many of you in the room here, very happy for that. To mobilize stakeholders from municipalities, business and civil society to become active in the DUT mission to transform cities. In addition, DUT is also working with the Net Zero Cities and capacities to strengthen innovation in cities. And the goal is to improve funding for urban research and innovation, support implementation, build knowledge in cities. Ultimately, this work aims to help cities achieve their goals. But how does this work in practice? I'm so looking forward now to listening to the voices from the cities with insights from actors who have experienced driving change on the ground. So welcome up on stage 3 distinguished guests: Mar Ferrer-Saez, Head of Technical Infrastructure, System and Communication at Valencia Innovation Capital, City of Valencia, ENACT project. A warm applause for you. Please be seated. And we also have with us Hans Sacker. You're Hans, welcome. Strategic Advisor, the City of Utrecht, EUI project Collective Energy Districts, and also a vivid participant of the City Panel. Welcome. Welcome. And last but not least, Nadja Riedel. There you are, Nadja. A warm welcome to you as well. Senior Project Manager, City of Leipzig, Moniped Project. A warm welcome. Welcome. So happy to have you here. I want to sit, but I'm gonna see if we are seated like this. Are you okay? Feeling good? You've all been here in the morning. Do you want to give some reflections on what you've heard, particularly Marcos or Martin, talking on a more over level, on a more global level? Hans. We spoke about, you don't have, please, you have microphones, all of you now.
Oh, well, I think, well, thank you for having me, first of all.
No, thank you for coming.
So that's great. We met with Orsilia in Brazil last year, and it was great that the collaboration could continue, so that's great. And yes, so I think, and we're going to talk later on as well, I think there's many challenges in cities, right? And as they were focusing, so they were in stormy waters, and I think obviously we should go for this competitiveness fund, but at the same time, without forgetting, you know, like cohesion, they were saying, like, and also inequalities and everything. So I think there's this tension. So I think we should go for competitiveness and as a geopolitical and geostrategy and go for competition, but also don't forget people behind and everything. So I think this tension is what I really liked and got from the panels before.
We will go back to that as
Yes,
well.
exactly.
Thank you so much, Mar. Hans.
Yeah, this morning I think that for me the picture of Venice on one side, very special place, and so we have cities that are special, have something dissimilar, and on the other hand we have a kind of thinking of replicating disseminating, learning, mainstreaming, upscaling, that all are metaphors for a little bit becoming the same. And the interesting thing, I was thinking how to do this kind of dilemma, how to stay special. On the other hand, we have a kind of international quality standard in mind, or an international SDG program, or for all human rights standards. How, and in the new, I saw in the new roadmap, there is a kind of 2 words that try to combine, I think. So I think it's interesting. I still have to read it, but one was the place-based and the universal challenges, and how these two are also 2 metaphors of how bringing these 2 worlds together. But I think we can go.
Thank you for the reflection. Yeah, we will get back to that as well. Nadia?
Yeah, so maybe from my perspective, what we saw this morning and what is still important for the cities in crisis, that we still keep this direct connection between the EU and the cities through programs like the DUT partnership, because our national governments become more and more unstable, and sometimes our local policies are not so much in line with what is going on the federal level. So sometimes it's really good to have programs that kind of outpass those national. So I'm really for this multi-level governance, really not pushing all the, but if we're talking about the multi-annual financial framework, don't put all the money to the national states, because the cities sometimes are more progressive than their countries that they're in, and programs like DUT help us to bypass that. So that's what I take from the morning, and but also the question of how do we, in all those EU projects, we're about how do we replicate the learnings, how do we bring it to other cities. Yeah, I think DUT, we're talking about the different formats, so I think DUT has made some nice approaches to do that. But behind the DUT, although there's a massive amount of cities already in the program, there's basically another massive amount of cities who have tried to be part of the DUT but didn't manage because the proposals weren't accepted. So how do we work with this community of already interested cities but haven't made it yet to the community? So, and plus all the other cities who maybe not even aware that we have such great initiatives like the DUT.
With the infrastructure. Yeah, okay, so good questions for us to come back to as well. Thank you, Nadia. Hans, I wanted to ask you in the beginning, as we spoke about before, from your quite long experience, 40 years working in Utrecht with different kinds of challenges and working globally as well. I know you've been lecturing and traveling, and just wanted to start to ask, how do public authorities build capacity? What is that?
Well, that is difficult more and more because people coming and going, and everything is integrated approach. That means that everyone is not a policy officer on monument or heritage but is a project assistant B or program manager D, or so this kind of abstraction is taking away content and substance from jobs. And so we have to be aware that for example, I'm now a project lead in Urbex. So we have to deal with 12 different kinds of integrated approach to come up with good local action plans. So that's a lot of integratedness. And it's perfect, but there isn't kind of learning how to and another phenomenon, when I walk into the restaurant now or the canteen of an institution like a municipality, there are 500 or 600 people sitting, and I know 3 or 4. And I always ask young people, how many people do you know? Well, 5. And that means that you don't know the people anymore because the circulation of expertise is flowing so quickly, and people staying social that capacities and capacity building is becoming a little bit a problem in 2 dynamic places. On the European level, I think we have a little bit the same phenomenon that we have here. I think how many projects? 160 projects. At Utrecht, we are in 32 projects, European, and all these projects creating a toolkit, a guidebook, a learning module, something to and that is used only once. And so I think the learning capacity is really very isolated in very small, and that the big challenge for programs like this is how to connect all these urban programs like Urbex and Interreg, but also in the SERF program we have urban projects, EUI, and they all doing this. But is it not now to have special projects to extract all these kind of learnings and to bring them together in a kind of remembering what we already did, and that we start to recycle all this kind of learning and create more places where people start to know each other again, also intercity places, because we, of course, we can put in Portico and kind of cloud or an online, make it accessible or keep it accessible. But it's, I think we start to need more concrete places where we start to learn more in person. In specific fields we aren't here talking about.
I'm going to stop you there and thank you for that. Ma, I'm going to turn to you now, and I'm keeping here, Hans, the place-based approach, how that's really crucial for reconnecting the knowledge. But Ma, you work in the city of Valencia and with the innovation platform. What are the, also I want to say, when I spoke to you before, Ma and Nadia, you are having so different challenges. In Valencia, you're investing quite a lot in innovation, even if we are in the geopolitical challenging situation. So with that as a background as well, going back to Nadia later as well. But what are your successes to invest so much in innovation, and how can public authorities drive innovation in cities from your perspective?
So indeed, so in Valencia, so obviously innovation is difficult, right? So and mostly from a municipality, right? From public administration. I mean, it's key, but it's obviously difficult, as Hans was saying as well, right? So in Valencia, what we've done is we've created a platform for innovation, so which is called Valencia Innovation Capital, and is kind of an open platform, an open innovation platform, as it was an open innovation platform to connect talent, technology, citizens, and the municipality itself, right? So we work. So how does it work? It works like with duality, inward, like we take on the ecosystem to build on and digitize and kind of modernize the municipality, right? And on the other side, we go outwards. So the municipality, we take on and we try to frame what are the challenges, and we transfer them to the ecosystem so that the ecosystem can answer those challenges, right? And so the way we've done it is like we have, well, we focus on different sectors. So we have 8 strategic sectors, etc. And we've done a portfolio of tools, of innovation tools, so that we can engage with the ecosystem. So that's very important for us. So obviously, European projects is a very key part of one of the tools, right? So it's one of the tools, but we have also urban challenges. So we launch challenges when we kind of define from the municipality, and then we open to the ecosystem, and the ecosystem, they can apply to those challenges that were defined by the municipality, and then we get them on board. Then we've got the urban sandbox, which is a way, so we've put the city open for innovation. So we've put like what we call more than 100 urban resources, which is public buildings, infrastructures, even events, and we put it at disposal of innovators. So and then we've got innovation grants, and so all these is kind of a portfolio of tools, is a platform, and so it's much easier like to get continuity and to get kind of strong, you know, lead for that. So I think that's that has been quite clever, and in the end it just starts with the problem, right? And then with the problem and connect it to the ecosystem and to build some structure. So that's key for us. And yeah, for building capacity, in the end is by doing, and right, by all the urban projects you are in, but also these connections, or like we've got the mission cities, like the national platforms, or like you were saying, the city panels, right? So those are key moments as well for peer learning and building capacity and connecting to alliances, which is key as well. It's not only the ecosystem, but it's also the alliances with other cities, with European networks, etc., that are key.
So all of the networks and nodes are making it easier to put in all of the projects so that they don't live as isolated islands.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Nadia, from the city of Leipzig, I feel that I'm in front of you. I hope I'm not. Yeah. What's your experience as a partner from municipalities in a DUT project, from a project Moniped?
Maybe getting also back to what Hans says first about how can we build capacity for innovation in the cities. The question is always, do we allow our employees and the civil servants to really be innovators in the cities? Because of course, I work for a smart city unit, so we are by definition the innovators in the city. But for all the solutions we're trying to bring into the cities, we always need the expert knowledge from the ground, from the different departments. And the question is, do those colleagues have time to do it? Are they allowed? So it's also a question of leadership. Do their head of departments really allow them to think outside of the box and not only do the daily routine that they are there? And are they open for it as well? So as somebody who has been like being in the, I don't know, in the planning office for green space, is it still able to think outside of the box and open for new ways of thinking besides we have done this always like that and we will not change it. So I think it's a combination that it's not only about resources, which we might get in by innovation projects like the DUT or the Horizon, but this is not the standard procedure for most of the cities, because to acquire or to get part of those projects, you already need knowledge within the municipality to be able to apply for that. So usually basically our unit consists of people who have been working for universities, so who are a little bit more familiar of the methodology, the language. And so first, when you survive the proposal and then you come to implementation, the big challenge is also how do you link it really to the day-to-day work in the different departments. And then the biggest part is actually how do we continue not only the knowledge we have learned within the project, so not only to other cities, but how do we also keep the knowledge and the tools and solutions we have maybe developed within the projects? Because usually with some of the solutions, we have some maintenance costs, we have some further operational costs, and sometimes this is not included in any of the city budgets. So good solutions basically die by the end of the project because we don't know how to finance the tools themselves or the people who are able to work with them. So this is maybe the learning so we have been working in Horizon projects, but also by the DUT projects. So for our DUT projects that we're now working in, which is dealing with positive energy districts and monument protected areas, we're also working together with a local company because we also see those projects as it's like economic development, basically. You know, we have a very fragmented economic system in Leipzig, meaning very many small companies with no own research departments or so. So we use those kind of projects also to support them in their innovation development. But we also always try to link it straight to the strategies that we have on local level. And this is sometimes really finding what is your local strategy, what is the call topic, and what is the other partners in the consortium doing. And you need quite a bit of know-how to manage around that. And this is something the cities and also the city leaders need to be aware of, that they need people like that who might not be the expert on one topic, but can do those cross-cutting management and development activities within the cities.
So if I hear you correct, it's really a management question that you need to build in the possibility to try things and work over department.
It's a management question, and it's also the openness to be open that you might not know at the beginning of a project what will be there at the end of the project. Because of course you write proposals, then it takes another 1.5 years till the project really starts. By then other crises have occurred, there have been elections. And then there's another project duration, and during the project you will see things need to be adopted and changed. And that openness also on the political level and on the management board is in many cities it's there, then it's fine. But for some cities they're like, no, we're not joining those projects because we don't know what we get out of it from the very beginning.
So if I ask the question, what would make the management or the political management to want to combine, dig into these kinds of projects? And this is a question for all of you. I mean, in Valencia, you already see investments, but from Utrecht and from Leipzig, would a collaboration with the private sector even more? Is that nudging, getting into projects like the DUT?
I mean, for us, it helped because in our DUT, as I said, and also in other horizons, we worked with the local SMEs and also with our public utilities. And that gives another, let's say, push within the municipality, because we're saying we're also doing economic development here because we are engaging with the business sector. So
and combining growth and sustainable development.
That works well for us. Maybe in Utrecht, it's different.
Well, I don't know. I'm sorry.
No, Hans, please, first. Hans, you go ahead.
No, in the Dutch situation, the municipality is not getting almost no funding from this program. So that means that it goes to the applied science universities to universities, and so it could be interesting to be associate partner in one or other way. But it's more interesting to see how to combine. We have, for example, an EUI project, 5 million project on energy communities, and there really something gonna happen. There are 10,000 people starting to live in a new area, and having research from this program and combining things and creating kind of learning ecosystem on this spot could be very interesting. So to start to combine European funded programs with their specific qualities and focus. But I still think that it could be challenging to think where do you really want to come together to learn on a process of solidarity and peacemaking in Europe. I think that's in Gdansk, the European Solidarity Center. There you should have projects to collect all the learning modules and toolkits and guidebooks on solidarity making, inclusiveness, bring it together. And if you want to learn about this with colleagues, you go to Gdansk. If you want to learn about the afterlife of colonialism, you go to the Humboldt Forum in Berlin. It should happen there. That's the biggest space we have in Europe on this. If you want to do on sustainable tourism, go to Barcelona. There, bring programs together and start to recycle the things we know about sustainable tourism, and come together with colleagues like the Inter-University Center in Dubrovnik, where it's a worldwide academic place where you can do your courses. Everyone knows, go to Dubrovnik. And that could be a kind of course, all these cities want to do energy communities and positive energy, but it would really help to go in the next stage to make some choices and make it the in-person learning should happen. The coming 4 years should happen there, and then you make someone responsible, and also ask now for the new calls in this program to the research partners, bring it together what's already there, and make it a better version. What is the best of 50-minute cities, and do it in Paris.
So what you're saying is invest in the infrastructure of the RNI knowledge to better learn from each other, and not to invent the wheel again and build project silos. Do I read you correct? Yeah, because we missing the long-term systemic learning. We're going from project to project, and we have to make a little bit more choices on where things comes together in the things we already have been doing. And otherwise, a waste of inventing the wheel all the time in all these projects. It's too much. I think that the Driving Urban Transition takes this challenge in a way with the city panel, where we try to once a year on site and once a year online. We try to collect as many city administrations as we can. And I would like to ask you, Omar, from your experience in taking parts in these kinds of collaboration, does this give you the overview and not inventing the wheel again, so to say?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, also to comment on what Hans was saying, what she was saying. Like, we do have the same kind of problems in terms of continuity of people, or or like some backing, so for some projects, or more or less backing for a project, or but I think to build on a platform and on a structure, and to build a portfolio of tools is key, so that because some tools, like we do hackathons, or like we do, I don't know, or the urban sandbox, which is also something very key, because it was an ordinance that it took us some years to build, and it was a cultural change in the administration. So so all these things make it easier, like to build this portfolio of high risk or less risk tools. I think is key to avoid this fragmentation, right? So try to of projects and everything. And in terms of what you were saying of the city panels, or the networks, and obviously I think is essential for cities, because first of all, you get peer reviews, you get peer learning from other cities, and I think also you get this accountability and these how would you say, like this acknowledgement that you should be there, and you should be, I mean, it's a moment of gathering, is also visibility and diffusion, right? So it also kind of aligns your municipality with a bigger goal, and I think that's key also for accountability and acknowledgement of of what are the themes that should be treated. And then yes, of course, there are many toolkits and everything, but I'm optimistic in the sense that like, for example, like you were mentioning also the mission cities, and with the national platforms and capacities, and with the national platform we achieved with Valencia, with Spain, to be the first to get the labels. Why? Because we were working in peer all the time, and we were working towards the same goal, and with the same tools, and structuring knowledge in some ways, and be able to share initiatives. So I do think those panels are key, and those moments are key, and are very important for acknowledging all these, and supporting municipalities indeed.
Looking forward into the near future, with competition being high on the EU agenda, does this change how public authorities drive innovation and build capacities? We've talked about this a little bit, but do you want to say, Nadia, anything about that?
Maybe that's like the special position that Leipzig is now in. We have a massive cut on the city budget, so we need to save 150 million euros, and we need to cut down positions within the city administration. So what I observe at the moment is that there's little room for innovation, or there's little room for openness to try out new things, because everybody is just checking their current processes and then trying to make them more effective, or let's say less costly. So there's what I talked about, the room that you give to employees to actually go on city panels and stuff. I think this room is really shrinking at the moment. And this is kind of not so, we're basically stepping a step back when we do this, because I also see those city panels and those on-site visits to other cities. This is basically capacity training on the ground, right? We have those younger colleagues coming from university, maybe not so experienced on the feet, on the ground. So those activities, they travel around, they see other cities and other backgrounds, help younger and older colleagues really to think outside the box and get back with new ideas. So I'm really pro for those city panels and the urban doers community, because usually we cities, we don't have that much capacity also to work with the NGOs and support them look over there. So that's, I think, really a benefit out of the DUT, because it's also so it's low level to join. It's not, it's super easy to take part, and this makes it really valuable, I think, for cities to be part of it.
Just thinking about what other people has talked about today, that we don't meet each other anymore in the society, and the learnings you talked about, Hans, that you feel like the knowledge is disappearing and it's new people coming in. So I know that you are a frequent visitor of the city panel. And what do you think that means for a city like Utrecht?
Well, I think that the networks of cities are, well, it's a little bit for me the opposite of competitiveness thinking of these indexes, and they are, of course, with the top 5 you make as a city marketing that your most competitive region in Europe, etc. And that is quite boring, because it's not this kind of indicators tell something what you could be in potential. And this and how to and also the second thing to keep in mind, all this bottom-up way of partnership are extremely important. But there is another side that we also have to deal with, this competitiveness that is international.
Yeah.
So international standards of doing your best with SDGs and for all human rights standard, how to translate human rights, fundamental rights in our cities, is, I think, to have a more top-down translation that is also necessary. So, and if these circles of cities can create a kind of European local culture that is interested in using the international human rights standard to take it into the local ecosystem, that is a kind of thinking that makes your city a utopian program that is never complete, but is challenging you all the time, but in a collective way. This is how we want to be special European cities that are different from other parts. This kind of competition I would like, but in the European, to say that London, Stockholm, Utrecht is the most competitive trio, it's totally a waste of time.
I'm going to turn to you, Ma. Can I just get 1 minute first, and then I'm going to turn to you, Ma. Hans, when we spoke before, you told me that urban planning could also be the language of how to speak in universal rights in another way. And you told me about the prize that you were handling out to Istanbul. Would you like to share just very briefly what that was?
That was yesterday. Eurocities is the major European network of bigger cities in Europe. They had the annual meeting today and yesterday, and there was a new competition. There was a kind of candidacy for mayors doing something special, and the mayor of Malmö, the mayor of Ulu, and Istanbul were nominated. And well, he's in prison, but it was very nice that there was, under his colleagues in Europe, there was such an connectedness with helping cities to city and giving this support. And the funny thing was, well, it's funny, but he wrote a 5-minute letter to the meeting. And his voice, he cannot get his voice out of this prison, but it was animated by an AI voice, and it was really almost real. And and also,
just reflects on the importance of interconnectivity and support from the cities as well. Really, really nice and beautiful, and hope that he gets out of prison very soon. Ma, what's your thoughts about the future? I mean, you come from optimistic, you have a budget, investments in innovation. So what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm optimistic. And also I think like innovation is key for competition and for competitiveness. And also like you were saying that you are looking at shrinking cost and everything. I'm sure innovation can take part of it, but obviously, yeah. But yes, so I think there's a few things. So there's a need for a cultural change or a cultural incentive in terms of appetite for innovation. I think that that's important. Then the second thing is to build with the ecosystem. So we were like Hans was saying, like the DUT project we had came from university research mostly, is a last mile, it is an urban living lab and last mile logistic kind of optimization. But it kind of stayed a little bit there. And with the tool we have, the Urban Sandbox, we thought, okay, maybe that's the future for that project, is to include an industrial partner, and that industrial partner to take some pilot in the city and to do a validation of what was kind of done, right? So that's to include the ecosystem in everything we do, like for competitiveness, and then to try and build platforms and kind of infrastructure, because we need to be kind of adaptive cities in the sense like the take in the future is like everything is changing with AI, with everything so fast that we cannot kind of be fixed on a solely like kind of isolated silos projects and everything. So we need to build this infrastructure that allows us to learn continuously, right? Systems, to build systems, and you know, and that's how, like, what I refer to adaptive cities and adaptive administration. We need to be flexible enough to be evolving all the time and not get fixed on like this siloed thinking and everything, and have this culture and appetite for innovation. I think that's key, all those things.
Thank you so much for sharing. I think the key word from this discussion was infrastructure in a way. That was quite food for thoughts as well. Thank you, Valencia, Utrecht, and Leipzig. A big applause for the panel. Thank you.
Thank you very much for, this interactive and interesting session. We've already heard and learned a lot. We started with inspiring, welcoming words. We heard about how important the soft power of cities is, that it's even something like a survival strategy for Europe to really work on these soft powers. I also really liked the question that Marco posed. What kind of societies are our cities producing? And I think this is something that we can probably discuss with all the different perspectives that we have, because I think that's a common theme, that it needs this exchange. It needs cities to work together, to learn from another, to also know which city stands for what, where can things really be implemented, and to move beyond just the projects, to really think about what systems, what processes need to be in place. Maybe it's a platform, an open innovation platform that brings stakeholders together. Maybe it's another process. So I think quite a lot of inspiration. Of course, there's still some open questions looking forward, but I think that can also be filled with different ideas that we have in the room today. Also, we heard the appetite for innovation, probably also feel your appetite for food. And I also liked Martin's statement that a key factor for the quality of life is to actually live, and for living, it helps to have some food. So we also have you covered for lunch. We will start our lunch session soon, or actually, in a few minutes. You will find the lunch in the foyer, but also downstairs. And downstairs, you see it behind me, we have the open area of amazing organizations that are looking forward to have an exchange with you. So really make sure you take the opportunity, you also go downstairs, you interact, you connect with them to make the most out of that. And I have a little announcement for someone who lost their wallet. If that's you, no worries, it's at the bar. So we look out for one another. Miss Gertmann, I was told. So if that's you, no worries, it's at the bar. So I think that's also a great sign. You can even lose things here. It's a great place to also be found. And usually I don't give people breaks, because I give them what they need breaks, because these days, are very, very full. There is so much happening. And before you leave into your break, I would like you to just take a breath and think what you need and set an intention for the break. Maybe you want to, reach out to new people. Maybe you also want to get a little bit breath and a little fresh air so that you can be back at 1 with full power. So take this what you need break as an invitation for what you need and what you like to do in this break. And then we see each other back here at 1. So make sure you're a few minutes earlier to secure the best seats, and enjoy your break, enjoy the networking, enjoy the open area, enjoy the time. Thank you very much.